Morning, everybody. We will call the May 25th Wright County Board of Commissioners meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I don't know. I didn't hear anything out there. They were very quiet this morning. It's just unusual. Normally the sheriff is the one you can hear really loud.
I had to adjust my voice without a mask now. So.
Oh, okay. Well, good. I'm glad that you're able to fit into that new role. All righty. Minutes for May 18th. Does anybody have anything to change?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve. Oh, sorry.
I had a change under A as an add-on for administration for items pulled from consent agenda. The second line there, it talks about the contract costs, $625,000 and supplies. That should be contract costs of $625,000 plus about $75,000 for supplies. That's in addition to the $625,000.
Okay.
That's all I had.
Angie, got that? Got it. All right. Anybody else have anything? If not, I'll look for a motion.
Make a motion to approve the minutes with that one revision.
I will second that.
Motion by Commissioner Ketchmark, second by Commissioner Houston. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. The agenda. Mr. Kaiser.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to petition an item on underneath the consent agenda item. I'd like to add number 3. I emailed this to the board, but it's a settlement, non-enforcement, and release agreement between the County of Wright and Super Tobacco 2 LLC concerning their tobacco license. And as a result of that, we can cancel the committee of the whole meeting that was scheduled for 10:30, which is already on the consent agenda item as A2.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as modified.
Mr. Chair, if I could add one item as well.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Just wanted to make sure I had an omission. We want to add the Human Services 430 budget for review of budget for this week. So just add that as an item for consideration.
I'll accept
Thank
that
you.
addition. My motion still stands.
Does anybody else have anything else to add?
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Ketchmark, with 2 additions. One for consent agenda, one for the regular agenda, under items for consideration. Any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Consent agenda. Does anybody have anything they would like removed for further discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Ketchmark?
under letter B, number 1, under warrants, I've got 3 or 4 items for clarification and question on one of them.
Okay. Anybody else have anything?
Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the removing B1 for discussion.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Motion by Commissioner Houston, second by Commissioner Ketchmark. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Commissioner Ketchmark.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. So under the weekly expense report, checked out some that there wasn't a great description for, so I found out a little more information. One was Glover Consulting LLC for $11,025, and I found that was an independent contractor doing IT work for the county. That was an April payment. And there was a payment of $9,045 to Jedlow and Snyder, PA. That is for court-appointed attorneys for probate. The Minnesota Pollution Control Agency had an expense $65,373.93, and that's a program to assist with septic system replacements in the county, and that was the payback for those loans. low-interest loans. And there's two linked together here I found. Quinlivan and Hughes, PA for $4,952, and AEM Workforce Solutions LLC for $6,680. And doing some checking, I found that that's connected to another professional service fee that I asked about in April, and Administrator Kelly weighed in on this one, that these two charges are connected to that one related to a personnel matter that's ongoing. And I had a question here, Mr. Chair is in on this now too, I caught in the email, but as we're getting close to, I think, about $15,000 here, are we getting any closer to a resolution on this matter, or?
We're hoping to have it all done, wrapped up by the end of June. All goes well.
Okay.
It's not an easy matter, unfortunately.
Okay, Mr. Chair, that's all I had.
Gonna have a motion then to accept all the,
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda with those clarifications
well, we
from
just need the finance part.
the finance part. B1.
Can I have a second?
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Ketchmark, second by Commissioner Houston. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Greg McDonald. Is he here? Is that the gentleman that just left?
He might have
Yeah,
stepped
I
out.
think he just stepped out.
I think he had a phone call.
Okay, we'll get him in a moment then. Good morning, Virgil.
Hey, good morning, Mr. Chair and Board of Commissioners. Today I have three highway items for your consideration. The first one is to approve resolution requesting MnDOT perform a speed study on our County Road 118 project that it's going to be under construction this summer. That generally it takes about a year for them to get things scheduled and in the queue. So we'd like to get that in front of you and approve today. It's a resolution for your approval.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve a resolution requesting MnDOT conduct a speed study on the new County Road 118.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Ketchmark. Any further discussions? Resolution, Commissioner Ketchmark.
Aye.
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 Resolution carries unanimous.
Okay, thank you. The second item, similarly, it's a request for MnDOT to perform a speed study on our Highway 39 that's finishing completion of construction this year in Otsego to determine the safe and appropriate speed, and that's a resolution also.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Ketchmark.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution requesting that MnDOT conduct a speed study to determine the safe and reasonable speed limit for County State Aid Highway 39 from County State Aid Highway 19 to Trunk Highway 101 in Otsego.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Ketchmark, second by Commissioner Houston. Resolution?
Aye.
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 Resolution carries unanimous.
Thank you. The third item is before you is to award contract 2106, Highway 30 and Tiger Drive Mini Roundabout to Meyer Contracting, Maple Grove, Minnesota, in the amount of $552,914.57. And this is a collaborative safety project with the City of Delano. The City of Delano has concurred with awarding the project. They're fine with their share of the cost, and the remainder of the cost would be funded with local levy funds in our budget.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve contract number 2106 to low bidder Meyer Contracting.
I'll second that with a comment.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Houston. Suggestions?
Yeah, thank you. Virgil, so the trend has changed. We're coming under, under estimates for so many of our projects, and all of a sudden now we're over. So is that because the prices of things have gone up substantially, or?
I wouldn't necessarily attribute it to that. I think this one is a smaller project. The scale is a little different, and maybe we haven't done a lot of these mini roundabouts that we maybe didn't estimate it real good. The bids were all grouped close together, and I think there's the economy of scale at some of our bigger jobs with the mobilization and such that I think these are still good prices. If we did them again, I don't think we'd get any lower prices.
Just an observation, thank you.
Yeah.
Question.
Yes.
Virgil, when was the estimate done? Was that way ahead or is that pretty close to when you did the project, gonna do the project?
No, it was done once the plans were completed, the design plans.
Because I had the same question as Commissioner Hewsome, and looking at some of the figures, I did see some of the supplies were a lot more. And I thought maybe that was too, because there's a whole lot more going on in that, in the city there, rather than out in the country, what you've done before, mostly, it seems.
Yeah, there's that part of it, and then I think mostly the small quantities is a big part of it. This is a $500,000 project, and some of our other contracts are $6-7 million.
Mr. Chair, I think you're right, Virgil. The economy of scale, because you compare this mini roundabout versus the full roundabout on 118 and the reconstruction, the total price of that project versus this really small project, I think we really didn't make out as well just because of the economy of scale. So.
Correct.
All right. Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you, Virgil.
Okay, thank you.
Have a good day.
Thanks, you too.
Mr. McDonald.
Morning.
Good morning. All right,
Thanks for having me.
I figured you'd be riding a horse in here today.
Well, you know what? John stopped me.
Oh, I understand.
Yeah.
I understand.
Anyway, I wanted to introduce myself. I'm Greg McDonald. I'm the executive director for the Buffalo Championship Rodeo. Hope you guys all come out this year. We're, getting back from COVID, so this will be my first rodeo. And just wanted to make sure you
Pun
all...
intended, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, first rodeo producing it for Buffalo. So Buffalo has the oldest professional rodeo in the state of Minnesota. It was established in 1955. I believe it's got to be close to one of the biggest events in the county, probably next to the county fair, right? So we're going to try to grow it. Currently have about $15,000 in prize money that we offer to contestants who come from about 30 states. And we will try to grow that. I want to triple that in the next 5 years. So just looking forward to county participation. One of the big things that I'm stressing with the rodeo committee and the board is to be involved in the committee and the community, so we can try to just make Wright County a better place to live.
Well, thank you. What date is it?
We're going to be June 23rd is our family fun day. The rodeo is the 24th, 25th, and 26th. We're trying a few new things. We're going to bring back the breakfast. So we'll have the breakfast available on the 24th and 25th.
Anything else exciting that you guys are going to be doing?
Well, I've got the video board back. We're bringing back the rodeo program. So we're trying to just basically bring back all the stuff that we had at one time. Like I said, this was one of the best rodeos in Minnesota, and moving forward, we're going to try to make it bigger and better all the time.
No, you couldn't get the sheriff to ride a goat or a sheep or a pig or something out there just
Or a
to...
donkey, yeah.
Donkey?
Well, we were going for the bull, and I'm pretty sure
The bull?
he's ready. Yeah.
Oh, is he?
said
Okay.
We think of the attendance, Sean. I think you can get 8 seconds.
No, I don't think he could get that. I'd be willing to bet. There's no way he could get 8 seconds on a bull.
I don't know. I think he could do it.
No, I don't think so. I doubt he could even get on it.
You're right. He might be too chicken.
Yeah, that's a possibility.
His wife would say no to it.
Yeah, it's my wife.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair. Thanks for coming in, Greg. You still working with Barnes for the
Yes.
critters then?
Yep. In 2018, I moved to Buffalo, and Marty Barnes, who I was a contestant, and he asked me to get involved with the rodeo, said that they needed some fresh blood, and so here I am.
Right.
Yep, they've been your stock contractor for, well, this would be the 67th year. It's going to be our 66th rodeo, but 67th year, so, Buffalo.
Good, thank you.
And Mr. Chair, I mean, you have a lot of vendors and a lot going on for kids and for everyone, good food, and so there's that in addition to the, wonderful rodeo part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to have a bunch of food vendors. We'll have, miscellaneous items also being vended there. We've got the mutton busting, of course, and
What is the mutton buffet?
That's fun.
it's riding sheep. Riding sheep. So we'll have 60, 70 kids sign up to ride, and we'll do that. Every one of them will ride Wednesday night, all trying to qualify to come back as one of the top 10, 12 that will get to ride during each night during the performance during the rodeo.
Some of them can really hang on to those sheep for a while. It's amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah, funny fact is that there are people that actually keep sheep just for this, like the ones that will actually run or jump or,
So they practice ahead of time?
I'm guessing yes. I get the odd, questions, hey, can I bring my own rope? Can I wear my spurs? No. But I'd like to invite everybody out. We're looking forward to hopefully have some good weather and have a good rodeo for 2021.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Greg.
Sheriff, we'll be nice to you now.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I just want the record straight that don't let my North Dakota heritage fool you. I've got an aversion to all kinds of farm animals. Dave knows that from a search warrant about 20-some years ago. I was getting chased around the farmyard, so. You guys want to come up here with me? Stand up here with me, please. I got to say a few kind words about each, and there's a lot to track here, so I'll try to be as specific as I can. But as you all know, a couple of months ago, Captain Dan Anselman retired from our office, and something that I've wanted to do since I was elected and have done since is to come over and introduce to you the new supervisors within the sheriff's office, not only just for transparency, but obviously the higher you go within the sheriff's office, the more likely it becomes that we'll be working with county commissioners and the county administrator and other department heads. So just for the record, I wanted to make those introductions this morning, and I'll maybe try to come up with a kind word or two for each of those. So first of all, with the absence of Captain Anselman, Todd Sandine was promoted to patrol captain to replace Dan. And so that left a patrol lieutenant opening. And so Jeremy Workala was a sergeant in CID, was promoted to fill the vacancy as a patrol lieutenant. And then his sergeant position, we moved another patrol sergeant, Ben Shop, off the road and to fill the CID position. And so Mark Olson was promoted to fill the patrol sergeant position. And now with the retirement in another week or week and a half, 5 shifts left, Dave? We got 5 shifts left with Dave. I'm not quite sure what I'll say about him yet, but with him, we are promoting Jolene Miller to his position, and she will be assigned to the patrol division as well.
You had me worried for a moment. You asked all 5, and all you said was Dan Anselman retired. I was concerned that you had to replace Dan with 5 people.
We only needed a .5 position for that, but we'll make a go of it. I can only say that because I'm guessing that he's not watching the county board live anymore. So
No, but I'll let him know when I see him.
I was going to say I might get a text message later from him. So I think I'm not calling Todd old. but he's probably got more knowledge and wisdom within the patrol division than all of us combined. After a military career, he started with Nevada State Patrol and came to Wright County many moons ago, and in fact was one of my field training officers when I started. So he's got an immense knowledge, and I love the vision that he's already displaying and some of the direction that he wants to go with some of the measures that he's implementing. So congratulations, Todd, and looking forward to that. Lieutenant Jeremy Workala, I'm not sure that he has a blood pressure most days. He is literally just the cool, calm, and collect in the office. He brings a level of calm wherever he goes, and he's always done that. I've never seen him get excited. I've never seen him get agitated. So when he's mad, he holds it in well, because we face all kinds of circumstances throughout our career, and I've never seen him get overly excited about anything. So comes with a great deal of knowledge. He was one of our canine handlers. In fact, when I was a patrol sergeant, he was one of my canine handlers at night. He's also dabbled in backgrounds and CID, so to have him back in the patrol division, I think where his strengths are is going to be a testament to, some good help for Todd anyway. Mark is probably one of the most methodical people I've ever met. He's extremely smart, very intelligent. He comes with a great deal of experience. He's been in SIU, he's been in CID, plenty of years of experience in the patrol division, and he's got a heart this big. So I'm really excited to see Mark shine in this new role. Jolene, don't let her stature fool you. She's one of our toughest, and she's been a field training officer for several years. And, we hire from the human race, and some people have a difficult time or a more difficult time acclimating to what we do. And so when we really wanted a true test of someone, or to really gauge where someone was at within the field training program, we would oftentimes assign them to Jolene, because we trusted that she would really be able to give us quality feedback on that particular individual and the status of them in the field training program. So really excited for her to share that knowledge and wisdom now to more people than one person sitting in the passenger seat or the driver's seat of her squad car. So she's going to have a greater impact in that. So thank you all for what you're bringing to the table, and excited to see where it goes. Now, Mr. Anderson, leaving us, his last official day will be on June 4th, so he's leaving the best time of year. And Dave was also one of my field training officers when I was started. I would consider Dave a great friend of mine throughout my entire career. We worked patrol together. We worked similar areas in patrol. We also worked narcotics together for a couple of years, and really fashioned our relationship working in that. So Dave has had a great deal of experience. He's been a sergeant for over 15 years, so he's been kind of one of our flagship sergeants for several years now on the day shift, and gonna miss what he brings to the office. He's always got something to say, and he's always got a laugh that goes with it. So I'm gonna miss everything that Dave has done for us, and so certainly wish him the very best in everything that he's going to do in the future, and hope to stay in touch with him for many years to come. So I have a plaque that I would like to present to Dave, and if he would like to say a word or two, he can certainly do that. So he started his career with the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office also before coming to the Wright County Sheriff's Office, but to be noted, he's been with the Wright County Sheriff's Office for over 28 years now. So I would say retirement is well deserved. So thank you for everything.
I don't have a whole lot to say other than to these guys, it's gonna go by fast. Don't think it didn't. Christine, when she was working for the sheriff's office a long time ago, and it seems like yesterday.
Yeah.
Mike and I worked together for a lot of years,
We started about the same time,
pretty much within the same month.
and you're leaving and I'm still here.
I'm sure you'll figure it out too.
Thank you all. Congratulations to
Thank
all
you so
of
much. Thank
And
you
then I
so
would
much.
just also like to point out, last December, you guys approved a confidential assistant for me, and she happens to be here. She has been a great addition for me, and has taken a lot off the plate of, actually, all the members of the command staff have little projects going on, and just the overall atmosphere that she brings to the office is greatly appreciated. So, Kristen, thank you for everything that you're doing and will continue to do. So, just a point of interest. So thank you all very much for the time.
Congratulations
Yeah.
and condolences.
Yeah, congratulations to your,
Good. I'm sure his wife probably appreciates that too. All right, anyway, thank you guys for everything you do. That's right, you got one other item.
Morning, Mr. Chair.
morning.
Good morning, man.
Time of year again.
Yeah, so before you, I've got a approval for a grant, State of Minnesota DNR Supplemental Boating Safety Supplemental Grant. We use this to fill shifts in the summer, boating safety education, some enforcement on a variety of lakes in Wright County, mostly weekends, high traffic areas, high traffic lakes. The grant we accept most every year.
How many members do you have in the boat patrol?
Rec services is probably 15 to 20. It's an auxiliary unit, so it's not a full-time. We have one full-time deputy assigned. The rest are kind of fill in. They sign up for shifts, assist when we have some kind of recovery.
Mr. Chair?
No, Mr. Chair, I was just going to make a motion to approve to accept the 2021 Minnesota DNR Federal Boat Patrol Grant.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Betts, second by Commissioner Wetter. Commissioner Ketchmark?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I had done some checking and got an email back. Thanks for the information. I read through the application and what the emphasis is, and it talks about that this will supplement the staffing and/or money that's dedicated to this. So I was wondering if it wants it kind of directed toward nights or evenings, holidays, and weekends. So first thing is Wright County being asked to contribute, like with some grants, to pony up with some more dollars kind of in connection with this? And then can you speak to the staffing now typically for evenings, weekends, and holidays that would supplement this grant?
Sure. So first question you had was how does
If Wright County is supposed to match any dollars?
this particular grant is non-matching. This grant is supplementing is a larger grant, like 21,000. That grant is used to help offset the cost of our one full-time staff member in rec services. So in essence, that does not cover the wages of that one person for the entire year. So we do cover a portion of that person's wages. This grant is non-matching.
Okay. Does the one person work much for holidays, weekends, or evenings?
They typically work on Monday through Friday. The weekends and the holidays is usually supplemented with this grant here as sign-up shifts for grant overtime.
Okay. And then I was looking through what the reports that you forwarded to me that get forwarded to the DNR, and it's the Federal Safety and Enforcement Grant. And so there's about, the last 3 years, about 25,000, and this is paid in overtime to the people working. And it looks like 11 citations and about 61 warnings in the 3 years.
Yep.
And in 2020, I noticed that a supervisor got almost half the shifts and over half of the money. Is that typically how that's set up for the person that runs the grant and the shifts?
So the shifts are posted, and we try to get them out pretty far in advance. But if those shifts are not taken by other members of the unit, they'll probably be taken by those who are available to work them in the last 24 or 48 hours prior to that shift arriving.
Okay, that's all I had. So it was made and seconded?
Yes.
Okay.
Question.
Yeah.
Do you only have one out at a time? Do you have one boat or?
No, we've got multiple boats, jet skis, so sometimes they'll work individually, sometimes they'll work as a pair, kind of depends on how that shift is scheduled. the number of lakes they're trying to get to, how busy the lakes are on that particular weekend.
Okay, so you're helping the conservation officer is what
They
you're
don't really
doing?
work with the DNR directly. The DNR might be out there, but the DNR, their goal is sometimes more AIS enforcement, patrolling the landings, other things. They'll also be out, but we don't really work in conjunction with them.
Okay, thank you.
The DNR would also be looking for people, making sure they have fishing license and that sort of stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, yep,
That they're not using 7 poles for 2 people in the boat or something.
number of lines.
And
All right.
20 sunfish or something instead of the 10, or whatever it is.
All right, any further questions? Thank you, Matt. Resolution, Commissioner Ketchmark.
Ketchmark votes aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you. Resolution carries unanimous.
It all helps.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, schedule committee of the whole to discuss county assessing local appraisers.
Yes, Mr. Chair, as you recall, we had a discussion back at our workshop in May about this. Wanted some additional discussion to take place regarding that, and numerous discussions have taken place at staff, kind of preparing and gathering information. So in discussing with the group, we were thinking it might be wise to hold off until after the Board of Appeal and Equalization on the 14th. So maybe it would be, you could do after the 15th meeting. We don't have a board meeting the 22nd, so, or another date that, one of those couple weeks, so.
We don't have a board meeting on the
On
22nd?
the 29th.
29th.
29th, yeah. Verify.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to set a committee of the whole on June 15th at 10:30 if that works.
I'll second that.
Alrighty. We have a motion by Commissioner Betts, second by Commissioner Hewson. Any further discussions? Anything in particular you want them to make sure they have for that meeting? All right, hearing none.
Mr. Chair, I forget with that one, I just want to instruct staff to, I'm assuming we're going to invite the counterparts from the cities and the private side of it, just so we have an open discussion both ways.
Yep,
Right.
so, sorry, go ahead.
Right, I was just gonna
Okay.
say, right.
Yeah, and some of the items we've been discussing at staff, of course, is the financial aspects of it that was brought up. Also, I've had some discussions at a high level with IT Director Fomby about some potential options regarding his position. I know we've had some discussions with Steve Bott from City of St. Michael also following the meeting. So hopefully we can pull together and have a very productive discussion on this 15th date.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
and thanks for bringing that up. This now is the time, I think, to request the information that we want. And I think there was already a request for the financial part of what it would cost to replace. Also, in my conversations, there's reference made to price per parcel on these different arrangements. So if that can be broken down on what these cities and townships would be paying on that end also if it went another route. And what services would be, how service would change if it would change from what it is now. Just so we got a good, fair, accurate evaluation and have it all come together at one meeting, hopefully.
And I guess I'd like to have some background information as to what Hennepin County is doing, being a larger entity that has private municipalities that are still doing it and accessing the county system, and they don't seem to have any issues with it there, per se, at least that I know about. So just curious of how they're working with their tax system and how they're getting non-county employees access to it, so.
And I think it'd be worth checking with Meeker, because sometimes it's referenced that a smaller IT system it varies with security, and I think on each end, we could look at the same, there should be the same concerns.
But again, it depends on the software too. So I would prefer to know what software they're using.
And Mr. Chair, Commissioner
Yes,
Ketchmark, I believe that every parcel is per parcel. So you're just looking for the number that they're paying, like the ones that have local?
Well, I kind of know that from conversations that the price for parcel is running around $11 to $14 with what I'll call the freelance independents. So how's that gonna compare with what the full-time county assessors are charging now versus what they would charge if they were doing it all?
What is the proposed rate for True County? Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Because that's what the cities and townships are gonna wanna know, is the difference from what they have now to the future.
Well, a lot of it depends on how it gets budgeted too.
Right, right. Mr. Chair, I will be in St. Michael tonight, so I will talk to Steve Bott personally, so.
Okay. Alrighty. Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Committee minutes. We only had one committee meeting last week.
All right.
Broadband, Commissioner Edge.
So last week on May 19th, the broadband committee met with a variety of us members there. There's a few people's names that are duplicated and I guess
And I wasn't there.
You weren't there, so there's some modifications on that aspect. So I think John Holler and Greg are listed as being there multiple times.
Well, I can believe
You
that.
were
I
only
can
there
believe
once.
that.
I didn't see your clone there. Yeah.
He wasn't in person and also on Zoom.
You know, he wasn't, you know. So, but anyways, we started off the meetings with a larger discussion of trying to develop some scope and some purpose. So we had some kind of discussion with that because we wanted to have a little bit of direction. So with that, we kind of wanted to put together a little bit of a mission statement and then kind of identify what we are going to do. So, you know, that we identified that we wanted to find delivery options, whether it's in the ground or via towers or a combination of both. We also wanted to identify needs. We are going to assess the needs of the county is one of our goals that we're going to do. One of the other goals is to disperse American Rescue Plan funds as it relates to broadband. The other one is we are going to become a sponsoring agent for ISP providers for grants through the county, state, and federal government. And then the fifth one was to be in at-will group to apply for grants on our own to help solidify infrastructure for broadband. Those are kind of the 5 higher overwhelming goals that we kind of identified for this committee. Then we also had a discussion about Elizabeth Carroll's showed us a very nice flow chart that kind of shows how the process goes for putting broadband into the ground and kind of where we are at right now. And then we had a discussion that we really are at the point now where we need a feasibility study to be able to help move this along in that flow chart to figure out some pathways and what makes sense, what doesn't. The recommendation from the group was to get 3 quotes for a feasibility study and then to bring back at our future broadband meeting. Another one that we had a discussion is with this information, we are starting to collect a lot of information and we need to have a place internally and externally for people to access information. So we want to create a broadband page on the internal SharePoint for documents and mapping and such, as well as we want to create a web page on the county page for broadband as we try to get more speed tests and as we want to post more information about projects relating to it. So that was another recommendation that came out of it. We had just some other little updates from the IT department in terms of where they were at with different aspects of broadband. We're also just trying to get some more people to take the speed test out there and we had a little bit of discussion on the discrepancies of why speed tests can be vastly different based on when you take them and the times of day, and is kind of getting people, mostly because there was some chat on Facebook as to the validity of one speed test versus another speed test, and there's a lot of factors that go into it that can really change the outcome on that. So, but with that, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes and the recommendations from the broadband committee.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Ketchmark. Any further discussions or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Commissioner Ketchmark.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. For budget review today is Social Services Department 430, and Jamie is here and supporting cast.
I like the sounds of that. Good morning, Board. This is Jamie Gudrum Schwartz with Health and Human Services. I'm just going to pull up a document if I can find it.
So we went through 420 last week, we had email back and forth and questions and answers and got it narrowed down to just a few things left for a little bit more narrative to go through and that should cover it.
Right, and I was just going to, again, get a few initial comments last time that social services is far-ranging, and the questions that were asked and that were already responded to, I believe, adequately, you know, is in just many areas. And again, just for, you know, we talk about different kinds of foster care, Commissioner Burrell's, you know, former favorite topic, random drug testing, you know, you name it, admin charges, just the gamut of different kinds of things that go on in the social services budget, again, just because it's such a large and diverse department. Michelle Miller is here as one of our social services managers. And come on up, Michelle and Christine. Christine can enlighten you on the other 5 questions that came up as a result of our other questions. And it does seem like we do have a lot of questions every year from the board on things like transportation and some of those kinds of things. So I think Christine can probably provide you with. I need you to put the email. Okay.
So I'll just
Yep,
kind of
go
weed
ahead.
through a couple that I'll give explanations that I received from you folks. And you mentioned the random drug testing. So the amount spent was $88,238, budgeted $50,000. This is an effort to try and keep kids in the home as much as possible. And there is some language that would allow for Wright County to charge more or something for drug testing, but the philosophy is that that would potentially deter accurate testing when it needs to be done and could slow the process down.
Exactly, and I would just say philosophically and in light of some of the other programs and the Family First legislation that is coming, even though right now I don't think our 2021 budget reflects it, our goal is to reduce overall the times and expenses around random drug testing. So, but I would agree. I think probably 88,000 was one of the highest amounts that we've had in the past, and but it's not likely, and it's not, I don't think, very beneficial to try to charge the family for the random drug test when we're also trying to work with them in the courts and work through other challenges and things around custody and visitation and things like that. It just would add one more, you know, stress to the family
Barrier. Yeah.
you know, that we don't think we would need to, and would sabotage some of our efforts. So we don't feel that that is a good place to be looking for reimbursement.
Okay, so some of the questions that we received yesterday is, what is the collection rate tied to 5481, which is admin collection charges? And so Jamie provided you a list of all of the balances in our various types of debts, and the collection charge is tied to a particular debt and tracked on that level, not necessarily tracked on what we collect a reimbursement on the actual collection charge. So we estimated our collections for 2020 at 59%. We're checking into that because it is higher than the previous years, but looking at what we received compared to our balance overall that we started with for 2020, that's what the calculation worked out to be.
Yeah, if it is correct, it'd be $4 million in collections.
That would mean what you did collect in 2020 or outstanding?
No, 7 million would have been outstanding and 4 million, but to me that seems really high, so I'm going to.
Yeah, you guys did like an
Well, it showed
immensely
we
change.
collected $1 million in one particular area.
In one
So
area?
like my computer
Okay.
just died, so I
Okay.
had all of the information 5 minutes ago, and now I have
And
nothing.
on some of those other collection things, it is interesting, and as we come in, usually Kim Johnson would be here because, you know, she runs the financial services area, but it's always interesting to me, like if we get a food support debt, somebody received food support and they hadn't provided the right income or a mistake was made, what we can collect on that is, what the county retains from that collection is different from a different type of debt. So, I mean, the feds kind of decide what the county gets to retain out of what we collect. We send I think we send the entire debt collection to the state, and then they either monthly or quarterly send us back the amount that we would then keep based on those collections.
Okay.
So the second question is, did the board approve the additional stay and kinship grant funds? And the stay contract was approved by Jamie and Lee because it was in that $25,000 to up to $100,000 range. And then the kinship was approved by Jamie because that was under $25,000.
These are fundings that support our ongoing programs.
We see changes all the time to our allocations and our grant awards, and depending upon the dollar amount, they may or they may not go through a budget revision process.
And that sums up three of them that I had. We had the kinship, we had the child protection opioid epidemic, and I think there was one other where the same question was, could the budget been amended at that point after?
Yeah, I would say, and I would say, I think just this month, they've probably gotten 2 changes to a previously quoted allocation. So I mean, they change all the time. I would say, I think HHS does a pretty good job in bringing back amendments and forwarding through the financial people and auditor treasurer. However, I'd say it's probably between this past year with CARES and ERP, which we were very involved in early on in the year, and then not as much toward the end of the year. Probably just something that didn't make it through. I would say we have an eye on it, and I think, again, that HHS usually does a pretty good job of forwarding all these. I'm not surprised if those were missed this last year because of those other significant time consumers within the fiscal folks.
Okay.
And then with the CARES funding and all the attendant, disbursements and things like that.
It was complicated.
Yeah, just procurement for public health was kind of a full-time job over there.
And thanks for the explanation on the Rule 1 versus the Rule 8, where Rule 8 refers to group homes and Rule 1 refers to family foster care and family group foster care.
Yep.
And I didn't get that out of that report, so thanks for explaining that. The supervised independent living, so what is this and why is it so far over? 145,000 spent, 55,000 budgeted. I was wondering,
Glad you asked.
is that, are those, any of those facilities in Wright County, or is that just a service that is provided to them wherever they live?
I believe it's more of a service, and it would be provided if we had financial responsibility for the individual. I don't know, Michelle, if you want to.
Yep, those are kiddos that are 18 to 21 years of age, and so they've been in out-of-home placement. And we are basically working with them to gain the skills so that they eventually don't need to be connected to the county. Typically, we have custody and there's court involvement. It might be payment to a foster home or like a supervised apartment setting, but yes, they're out in the community, and many are in Wright County.
And actually, through the pandemic, we've gotten multiple notifications about I would say, a new, very robust push for counties to keep track of these kids, because the fear is during the pandemic they're going to lose some ground and traction and not be successful adults, and so they're really so we've actually been kids that we maybe haven't had contact, well, I shouldn't say kids, adults that were in foster care that we haven't had contact with, we're remaking contact now based on directives from.
We actually had to do an outreach effort to contact them and say, you are welcome back into the program. So we will be well over budget this year.
So I'm not sure what that will look like for our 2021 budget when we get to the end of the year, unless there's some DHS dollars that are going to come in and augment that process. So more to come.
Not likely.
Thank you.
Funded mandate.
Transportation, budget down, needs for mental health up. Is there much for follow-up to find out if these folks are making it to their appointments, mental health, getting what they need, even though the transportation part is down? Or how did that shape up?
This is telepresence, which also the mental health visits became probably more so telepresence for mental health than some of the physical MA kinds of things. So.
And if they are on medical assistance, then mental health in-present visits would be covered by the non-emergency medical transportation. And that's part of that contract with MTM that we talked about under Kim's area, where we pay the administrative fee to coordinate that type of transportation. So what you're seeing in transportation is transportation that's not covered by MA, it's not covered by a waiver, so the budget is generally fairly small. And like we had noted originally is that the DT&H, because of COVID, was eliminated, so there really wasn't very much transportation necessary. Although mental health services were continued to being provided, transportation wasn't a barrier in that regards.
Okay.
Transportation is very heavily subsidized by the federal government.
Okay. Background check fees. What type of background checks and why was this over the budget? I was wondering if that's in-house expertise doing it?
And this is over budget in a revenue sense, I believe, right? So we received more money.
So this is actually our corporate license fees. It was incorrect. I mean, we used to do a background study as part of that process, so that's why it was originally labeled with that description. Now, most of the background studies are being processed through the Net Study 2.0 system. So then our team still collects the fee and does all of the other pieces of the license renewal. And I want to expand on what's covered in that area.
We'll probably rename that for upcoming budgets because the background check is no longer part of it, but the same providers that we serve are still in there.
So we'll be changing that name. It's basically a license renewal fee, and those fees are on our webpage, corporate foster care.
Okay, I could see the difference then.
And I think and one of the things that we should be keeping track of as part of the budget is that they're on a two-year cycle, so it's, even odd years that they get, and then sometimes we have more come and some drop off, but typically we have 1 year that has more that come up for renewal than other years. And I think this last year was that high year.
Yeah.
So maybe have 2/3 of them come up for renewal and in the even years and 1/3 come up for renewal.
I probably went a little out of order, but what else did you have?
No, actually, you
it?
followed your order.
Okay, we tried, disorderly order. Well, thanks, folks, that clears that up and appreciate your time and.
Yeah, I do have a request for next time. We could, if we're gonna go with public health and if it requires coming to board and providing the information, if we could have a week in between, a second week in there, just because I think there's a lot of stuff going on and then with the holiday and with, I think you're gone and Sarah's gone for part of those days.
Okay.
We'll do it if you want us to be back the, the
Well,
following week, but
and
push
I'll
it out
pour
a little
through it and see what we come up with, but we can tentatively skip the week then. And
And just a reminder that we are having a celebration of the vaccination clinics out at the highway department today. I think at 11:30 for cake. No, that's
I
Mary's.
think it's
2:30.
You're having a celebration at,
Of just kind of celebrating the folks that we're having working on the vaccination clinics.
nice, yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, they've done a good job up there, too.
Yes, for sure.
Absolutely.
So then, just to follow up, I guess we'll plan for the June 15th meeting then for public health, if that works.
Okay. Thank you.
And then my understanding is next week we won't have any.
No, is that all right? Do you want me to find a?
No, that's fine.
We'll take a reprieve. How's that? No, thanks, so, Mr. Chair.
It's just gonna be kind of a short week and
Sure.
Monday and,
No, we're crunched for time typically anyway, it seems like, but, okay.
alrighty. Advisory Committee, Advisory Board updates. Administrator Kelly, let's start with you this morning.
Okay, I will lead out of the gate. A lot of follow-up work based on some of the meetings from the previous week. And preparing for that, discussions with the assessor, with IT, also with planning and zoning. You'll see an item coming forward regarding the building official. Did have our first interviews for our administration intern that we were looking at doing this year. So hope to move on that. A couple things just to make sure is on the board's calendar. We do have the AMC District 5 regional meeting on June 14th. We'll be up in Mille Lacs County. Additionally, speaking with Gary from Trailblazer, they're looking at doing kind of a celebration for the completion of the expansion of the Buffalo facility on June 17th at 11. So that'll be after Trailblazer's board meeting.
We changed the board meeting to, instead of July, we canceling, we moved it to June.
Okay, so if that date moves, let me know.
No, that's the reason we chose to have our Trailblazers meeting on the 17th, because we weren't meeting in June and we were gonna have in July, but we thought we'd do them together, so have a meeting and then.
Kind of an open house thing, or?
Yep.
At 11?
Yep.
Yeah, and they would like to see all the commissioners there if possible.
Well, we better put that on our calendars.
Can have
It's
admin.
not
send it-
paid, but
see,
at least-
admin can populate the
We get paid.
Commissioners, send
Sure.
Outlook.
Yeah,
populate
we
the
can send
calendar.
out a calendar invite.
That way I don't ever forget to put it on there.
So
Sure.
how many applicants did you have for the
Intern?
intern?
We had 3 initially, so.
Good. That's good.
That's good.
That's
Do you have
all-
anything else?
That's all I had for this week.
Well, I have one question regarding ERP.
Sure.
Where are we?
Well, as you know, we've ended the contract with Cyber as of the 11th. We reached out for various providers that are in the area. We'd identified one, Sierra Cedar, that looked the most interesting and requested for them to put together a services agreement and statement of work. Got that late as of yesterday and was going to have legal review it. So
They've had a chance to review where we're currently at with our ERP system and stuff then?
this would just be the engagement to get them on board at this point.
Oh, so they kind of don't have an idea where we're at?
Not as of yet, no.
And then you'll be bringing forward a contract from a building inspector standpoint for a temporary.
Correct. You should see on the June 1st a memorandum of agreement regarding the building official to temporarily appoint one of our internal candidates. So that will be moving forward next week.
And we're still working on filling the additional spots then.
Correct. We had a couple candidates for the building inspector. I don't know that a date is set yet for interviews, but we're moving forward on interviews. I believe it was this week, so.
All right, thank you.
And we do have someone to basically step in for now.
Correct,
Yep.
yes.
Because saying no isn't an option.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Especially what's going on right now.
Yep, it's
All the
very,
building going
Just
on.
just a little bit.
it is a bit of the perfect storm. Like you said, it's a very busy time in building just this time of year anyway, but also just with, people have done a lot of projects over the last year, and that's continuing on here, so.
Have we allocated overtime approval on this?
Yes.
Okay, I was assuming so, just because
Yep. So
We
I
have to get
think,
her done.
I think this option gets us all the seats filled as quick as we can. So
Commissioner Wider.
Okay. May 19th, Historical Society, they announced, and I guess it's been in the paper too, that they are actually going to reopen June 1st with just some of the areas open. So July is tentatively, the library will open, and September tentatively, the activity room will open. Right now, they're emphasizing working outside and getting things up, cleaned up and that. And the 4-H group came in and cleaned out the gardens around the entry, and they're going to make a little kind of thinking stool or bench there. And also, last Tuesday, I was at the Rockford Township Hall, and they did sign up for the EDA. Tonight, I'll be in St. Michael, and I don't know,
They've already approved it.
have they approved it? Good, thank you. That's all.
Commissioner Batch?
All right, so a number of things. I'll pick some of the more highlighting topics. So Trailblazer met last week. We worked on discussing the finishing of the Buffalo Garage expansion. We also talked about staffing levels. We had a number of driver positions open, mostly just because utilization is low, but now that numbers are starting to come back to normal levels, trying to get those driver spots filled so we can get more of the routes out there. But once again, the labor market for those level of positions are complicated at best.
It's unfortunate you can hire somebody, but they can't get a test.
Yep. So that's exactly, so the other side of it is then we discussed about, our plan was originally to add on a couple more buses this coming year, but because of the number of driver positions that we currently have open, we are going to forego that request to MnDOT for that additional funding for those buses and routes, because we felt as though we have too much ground to make up in our current employment situation. So we'll be holding off a year on our plan to move forward to meet our demand. Then we also kind of had a discussion about our budgetary rates for the next year. And then also we're having some headway on our software. So there was good news on that aspect, because we've been limping along with a software system at Trailblazer that doesn't meet the size or scope of our operations in terms of scheduling and routing for our drivers. So we're trying to find something that would meet that, but there really isn't anything in the market.
That's why I just find it so hard to understand that a dispatching software for buses, and, you know, I mean, there's all the cities that have buses, and why it's so difficult to come up with something.
Yeah. So then the last week also, I had a meeting with the Wright County Economic Development Partnership. They had a discussion about what they would like to tackle in the next year and things going forward. Some of the things that they're interested in, there's a demand for services in business counseling, as well as there's a demand on wanting to help the cities partner in having some more shovel-ready projects or sites within their city. So those are kind of the two things that their partnership's going to hone in on in this next year and kind of moving forward on those two projects. Other than that, we had a discussion or a presentation from the city of Montrose and the city of Annandale on what they have for construction and what's going on. Both very good presentations. Then earlier this morning, I had a meeting with the MnDOT Policy Advisory Committee as it relates to the northwestern quadrant area. Basically, this is all comes down to their study that has to show for another river crossing, which is kind of, they're slating the conceptual area to be from Dayton Parkway on 94, connecting up with Armstrong on Highway 10, kind of coming right just east of Diamond Lake, kind of coming straight across there would be the kind of focused conceptual crossing in new roadway. So this was kind of first of us seeing that here today, this morning. So
Can they get it done in the next year?
Looking at the scopes and looking at all the numbers on it, I mean, you're probably based on all the pieces of the puzzle.
10 years?
Well, I mean, you're close to $1 billion in all the pieces of the puzzle that with all the new interchanges and overpasses that the total project in itself, not just the river crossing, but all the other pieces to it is probably just south of $1 billion project. But I think this is something that would be done over a decade's period of time. But interesting, very interesting. So
that'd be good training for you for when the Monticello one ever happens.
yeah, well, that's why I said looking at all the stuff, and I was thinking, okay, I mean, you're looking at all the pieces that even because of this river crossing, there's a lot of things that would have to change in the Rogers area, as well as there's a lot of things that had to change up in the Ramsey-Coon Rapids to kind of make this all flow right. So, not to mention the land acquisition.
Well, yeah.
A lot of land.
Yeah.
That'll be a lot of the cost.
Yeah. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
All right, last week after the board meeting in the late afternoon, the wellness committee met, and they've been doing a very good job with the help with health partners. They've had, even through this COVID, they've had a lot of employees that have been engaged in the wellness committee. So I commend them for doing a job well done. And I was on the Trailblazer one for a little bit. My wife had surgery last week, which is why I didn't make the broadband one. So she's had a knee replaced, so her second one. So she's doing well. I can still outrun her. So the bionics haven't kicked in on the new knee yet. I'm worried when it does. So.
It'll take a while.
Watch out, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was able to finish my visits to all my cities and townships. Last Tuesday, Albion was my last stop, and so we it was a nice long meeting with different things going on there. And then on Wednesday, we had an executive board meeting for MEDA. And our Lori Blockett, who is our drug-free communities coordinator, essentially, she's really been, very engaged and has lots of ideas, and so wanted to meet just as a executive committee. And we talked about some of the things that went on during the academy, and I was part of that first week. And they're also, looking at the curriculum, which is organized with strategic prevention framework. And after, they're going to have 2 more weeks of sessions, which I will not be part of, but they're going to develop 5 essential products: the community assessment, the logic model, strategic and action plan, evaluation, communication plan, and sustainability. And we are basically, our 3 priorities with this grant are alcohol, tobacco, and marijuana, and certainly the vaping and the dabbing and all the stuff that kids are getting into. That's a big concern. And we talked about getting a expert in addiction to do some type of presentation. I mean, it might be a 2-day workshop type thing, but also to open it up. And I kind of said, maybe having something in Sturgis Park where you can bring a lot of people and yet they're not inside, that might be a good venue for the summer. So more to come on that, but Lori's been good about getting things out on Facebook and Instagram, and we talked about, is there a value to having a newsletter? And people, they're not going to read a lengthy thing, but if you can get something out, just in a page that with information, I mean, in a newsletter, it's got to be something of value. So we kind of had a little discussion about that and left it up in the air. But she and Caitlin Main, who was a senior from Maple Lake, has been part of our coalition, and they were on the radio a couple of weeks ago. So if you look at the MEDA on Facebook, there's a link so you can listen to their program. They did a nice job. So, and that's about it.
Mr. Ketchmark.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Well, Fair Board met last night, still planning full speed ahead for the fair. Everyone will be happy to know that sounds like they nailed down All-Star Wrestling this year for the fairgrounds.
Whoa, that's going to bring them out.
With a special ringside seat package. I'm sure Administrator Kelly will be there. Local emergency management met. Short agenda there, but Mr. Chair will be happy to know that I brought cookies for the meeting.
Oh.
They were appreciative during EMS week at the local emergency management meeting.
Did you bake them?
Can't comment on where they came from, but
Okay.
they're appreciative. Library board met. We've been going back and forth since before I was on the board. They've been discussing extending the hours of the library. And now that we're coming out of the pandemic, instead of doing that, it looked like it could happen, but now they kind of want to wait and see and how people come back to the library and the staffing and security and what that'll all look like if you extend it, either open early and stay later. So that's going to be on hold for now. The biggest meeting probably was MRC. There was, I'd suggest Administrator Kelly jot down this name from AMC, Leah Patton. She gave a presentation on meeting protocol, the in-presence versus the remote after July 1st. And unless the rules change, there's only going to be like 3 exceptions when you can participate in a meeting remotely.
Really?
And if you don't, there's penalties potentially or fines if you don't comply.
Really?
But it won't count as a quorum and you can't vote. One example of working remote that would be allowed would be if you were in your house and you qualified in the other exceptions, but you'd have to open your house up to the public. It would have to be a public place at that point for that hour or 2.
You have to publish that address out to the public that you will be meeting in this location and it's open to the public.
Wow.
Yep.
So
Open
I'd
meeting law.
urge probably Administrator Kelly maybe to touch base with those folks. There was a lengthy presentation of the rules and what that's going to be. It doesn't sound like there's a lot of interest at the legislature to have to allow hybrid or remote. They,
Really?
yes, so we can't really count on this really sticking around. Another thing they brought up was DVS, the loss of these sites for driver license testing. It's spreading around the state. They're getting the word, and it was news to some of them. So I said, hey, we got it going on here, shared with them our issues, and I asked that they kind of put that on the agenda and on the radar, so they're gonna look at, maybe we can get some support from the rural counties. So maybe if we have something to share, Administrator Kelly, with MRC on where we're at with that and how it is or isn't going well. But those were the biggest things from that meeting.
It would be nice if they'd sponsor in, if they would support our bill as one of their platform items. I know I've talked with a number of members at AMC, and I'm planning at the Fall of Policy Conference to bring our piece forward to go on the platform for delegating DVS services to counties, or at least an opt-in if counties to choose to. So hopefully, and if the Minnesota Rural Caucus would support it as well, we can maybe have some traction next session.
It is so illogical that they haven't opened these sites.
What is there, 12 or 13 sites throughout Minnesota?
There was 14, but I think they're up to 19 now.
No, they have
I
opened up?
think aren't they working up toward 30? But I mean, okay, 93 to 14, when 93 were busy? I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
There's a lot of
No wonder we can't, I mean, these poor people can't get the commercial driver's licenses, just.
No, they've made an arrangement for the commercials and also for school bus drivers.
Yeah, school bus drivers, those ones have
Do they just,
They have a special,
they can get tested themselves individually at certain places. I think even some schools now have some testing abilities, I believe.
for truck driving.
For truck driving, yep.
okay.
But there's still a good number of commercial places that don't have those options, and
Yep.
So I am curious about if we can't go with hybrid for some of these committees that
In the summer.
got used to, we come from 11 different counties for an hour and a half meeting, and some people are spending way more time on the road than they are at the meeting. So we're kind of thinking, like in Central Minnesota EMS, like having one per year in person and then the rest of them remote, but it sounds like that might not be an option.
The next MRC is scheduled in September for Alexandria at 7 p.m.
Wow.
well, this has been a quandary from a number of these advisory ones. I know ones that are not like JPAs, the ones that are actual JPAs, I would say would be under the bound to have to be in person. But some of the other ones that are not, you wouldn't be, because there's some of them that are like nonprofit or just advisory groups that could still be done virtually.
I would think some of our committees, just with the two commissioners in our group, I guess we're gonna have to get that checked into.
From a recommendation standpoint, I mean, I wouldn't see why we couldn't, I mean, they're not.
If they're open to the public,
Yeah,
you have to maintain, everyone is gonna need to be here, regardless of the scale or attention or whatever's, sidebar, whatever you wanna call it, if it's open to the public. You do have to have one outlet that they can weigh in comments, whether it's email ahead of time or something like that. Just one way for the public to weigh in. But otherwise, it sounds like everybody on the committee has to be present.
MCIT has the legal lawyers that really get into all that stuff.
Yes, they did refer to that too for some of the legal language.
Yep.
Well, it does make sense to have these committee minutes online, just like you said, Commissioner Houston, where people have to travel many hours for a couple-hour meeting.
Yep.
So, yeah, chances are it won't happen because it makes sense.
Well, I mean, things like Minnesota Rural Caucus, it's not a joint powers group, so they can still do it remotely because it's not, I wouldn't see that's, I mean, it's not a government agency that you're belonging to.
yeah, they're probably not bound by open meeting law. I mean, it's good practice, however, I don't know that they'd be bound to it necessarily.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like they are. They follow the quorum. They got votes. They take those. I think they're gonna fall under the same rules. That's what it sounded like.
our Central
Yes, I'm not
Mississippi
sure how
Regional
they're-
Planning Partnership, that was always been a debate, because there's been a number of people that have always wanted to be able to keep it virtual even prior to the pandemic, but being a joint powers, it's not really a,
It's a
So,
government
you know,
entity,
it
yeah.
wouldn't apply to, I mean, if you've got a small committee, like, I would think our executive committee for META, I mean, you got 4 people at this meeting, I don't know if that would apply or not. I guess you could just have a meeting, can't you?
well, executive committee, if you're not meeting as, it's not a quorum, then
No.
you can meet as an executive group,
Right.
because it doesn't have to be
Right.
public.
Yep.
Yep.
Sure.
So if you have legislators you want to reach out to and express your interest one way or another, now would be the time.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely prefer in-person meetings, but sometimes it does make sense to have, these virtual meetings that you're not traveling.
Well, at least a hybrid
Right,
Yeah,
I mean, if you can get
so-
most people there, but
Yep.
some people that,
that can't, I mean,
It's-
like here.
Yeah.
This is a hybrid, you might as well say.
well, like tomorrow, I have one meeting at 1:30 and one meeting at 2:30.
That's right.
Well, there will be in 2 different buildings, after we come off this line, so I have to leave one 10 minutes early and whatever, so, yeah, it gets to be a little bit, it's nice when you can just click off and then click back on to another meeting.
Exactly. I hear you.
All right.
All right.
Anybody else have anything to add? Anybody have any answers?
I got lots of them.
Does anybody have any answers that we can actually accomplish?
No.
Not, we will adjourn at 10:15.